He promised her youth again. She promised him forever. But neither knew how much it would cost. The city hummed beneath her window. 1,000 horns. 1,000,000 footsteps. And somewhere between them, her heartbeat. Slow, steady, and still curious. Elena was 60. Her apartment faced the park where the sunlight broke through buildings like spilled honey. Every morning she watched the runners. Every morning she felt the ache of time pressing behind her ribs. Then came him. A boy in a white shirt, sleeves rolled, hair sunlit and restless. He was 20, maybe 21. He played the guitar on the park bench directly below her balcony. The notes floated upward like secrets meant only for her. For weeks she watched in silence. The way his fingers moved. The way he looked at the sky as if it whispered back. Until one afternoon he looked up and met her eyes. The air stopped moving. The city blurred. Only the boy and her reflection in his gaze remained. She stepped outside, the warmth of the concrete licking her shoes. Her heart was loud, too loud. Every sound felt magnified. Traffic, laughter, the rustle of trees. She walked toward the bench. He smiled, that reckless kind of smile that youth wears like armor. "Do you like the song?" he asked. His voice was rough, low, familiar. She nodded. But the truth trembled inside her. She did not just like it. It filled something hollow, something she thought had died. They began to meet every day. Coffee at the same corner cafe. Walks through streets that smelled of rain and roasted chestnuts. She told him stories of her travels, her poems, her loneliness. He listened, eyes shining, as if she were sunlight itself. One evening the city turned golden. The glass towers bled orange. He took her hand for the first time. It was a small touch, brief, electric. Her breath caught. Her pulse skipped like a startled bird. For a moment she forgot she was 60. But the moment did not forget her. People watched. A couple at the next table whispered. Someone laughed, not cruelly, but enough to slice through her calm. Her hand trembled. He tightened his grip. "I do not care what they think," he said softly. She wanted to believe him. But the air grew heavy, and her reflection in the cafe glass looked like a stranger. Lines on her face she had stopped seeing were suddenly sharp again. His youth was too bright. It burned against her aging skin. The next morning she avoided the park. Her room felt colder, the walls too white, the sunlight too honest. But that afternoon a knock came. When she opened the door he was there, drenched from rain, guitar case in hand. "I wrote something for you," he said. She hesitated, her throat dry, heart in disarray. He began to play. Each chord was fragile, trembling like confession. She stood frozen, her palms pressed to the doorframe. Then a voice called from the hallway, a woman's voice. Concerned. "Leo, are you bothering her again?" Elena turned slowly. The woman was young, maybe his age, holding groceries, eyes warm and knowing. "He talks about you all the time," the woman said gently. "His mother would have liked you." Mother. The word struck her like a sudden storm. Elena felt her knees weaken. The floor seemed to tilt beneath her. Leo looked at her, puzzled. His guitar still echoing in the silence. She saw it all at once. The resemblance. The same brown eyes. The same quiet sadness in his smile. Her chest tightened. A memory flickered. A name, a night, a letter never sent. The room darkened, though the rain outside had stopped. The air smelled of wet earth and something older. Something that had been buried in her heart for decades. She looked at him again. The curve of his jaw. The way his voice trembled when he said her name. And for the first time since she met him, she realized why her soul had felt drawn. Not by love, but by recognition. Her vision blurred. Her lips parted. And before she could speak, he stepped closer, asking softly, "What is wrong, Elena?" She opened her mouth, but no sound came. Her pulse roared. Her skin prickled. Every sound outside faded until all she could hear was his breathing. Then she saw the photo he kept tucked inside the guitar case. Faded edges, A woman holding a child. The woman looked back at her. Younger but unmistakable. Elena's heart stopped for a single dreadful beat. Her fingers shook as she reached for the photo. Her reflection stared back from the paper. The past she thought she had lost. The boy did not notice. He kept smiling, waiting for her to speak. The city outside buzzed with life. Cars, voices, laughter. And inside her chest, silence, heavy and final. She dropped the photo. It hit the floor softly like falling ash. He bent to pick it up. But she stepped back, her voice breaking through at last. "Where did you get that?" He looked up, confused, his eyes uncertain now. "It was my mother's," he said. "She kept it all her life. Said the woman in the photo once saved her." Elena felt the air leave her lungs. Her vision swam. And in that small, trembling instant, the sunlight through the window looked almost cruel. Elena's breath grew thin. Her hand gripped the edge of the door as if the world itself had tilted. The rain outside had stopped, but water still clung to her hairline, to her eyelashes. Every droplet felt heavy, like the weight of memory returning. She looked at Leo, at the boy who had awakened something she thought long dead. And now, she saw the truth hiding in the curve of his face. Her mind began to pull back years. Back to a night that smelled of smoke and sea salt. Back to the soft cry of a newborn she was told she would never hold again. Her lips trembled. The room flickered with the light of passing cars. Her reflection in the window looked ghost-like, fragile, breaking. Leo stepped forward, his brows knit. "Elena," he whispered. "You are shaking." She wanted to smile, to pretend, to lie. But the photo still lay between them, gleaming faintly under the light. She pointed at it, her finger trembling. "Your mother," she said softly. "What was her name?" He hesitated. His voice came out quiet, careful. "Amara," he said. "She died when I was a child." She used to talk about someone who helped her once. A woman who gave her a home when she had nothing. Elena's chest tightened. The walls seemed to close in. Amara. She remembered that name. The frightened girl who had come to her door 39 years ago, pregnant and lost. The girl she had sheltered for 3 weeks. And the night she had disappeared, leaving behind only a torn photograph and a name scribbled in haste. Leo was watching her closely now. "Did you know her?" he asked. Elena's mouth opened, but her voice came out like a whisper escaping from another life. "Yes," she said. "I knew her." Something in her eyes must have changed, because Leo's smile faltered. The boyish warmth faded into worry. "What is it?" he asked. "What happened to her?" The question struck deep. Too deep. She could smell the old apartment she had once lived in. Damp wood, bitter tea, the faint scent of baby powder. She could hear Amara's cry when she held her son for the first time. And she remembered the man who came looking for them days later. The man Amara had run from. Elena's hands pressed against her temples. Her pulse thundered in her ears. "I tried to protect her," she murmured. "I tried to keep her safe." Leo frowned. "From who?" She looked at him again and saw in the sharp line of his jaw the ghost of that man's face. The same fire in his eyes. The same shadow she had once feared. Her knees buckled slightly. She caught the doorframe for balance. The sound of his voice became distant, muffled by the storm inside her chest. "Elena, please," he said, stepping closer. "You are scaring me." Her gaze dropped to his hands, those hands that played the guitar so gently. But she had seen hands like that clenched in anger once, gripping a woman's wrist too tightly. Her breathing quickened. She wanted to believe he was different. That fate was not cruel enough to repeat itself through blood. But her heart whispered something colder. The photo still glistened on the floor, the image fading under the lamplight. Elena stared at it, the woman, the baby, and felt a sharp sting behind her eyes. Leo reached to touch her shoulder. His fingers brushed her skin. And something inside her broke. "Do not touch me," she said sharply. Her voice cracked the silence. The sound startled even her. He stepped back, hurt flashing across his face. "What did I do?" he asked. "Tell me what is happening." She could not answer. Words tangled in her throat, twisted by years of guilt and the terrible realization forming inside her. Her vision spun. Her hand found the wall. The room smelled of rain, old wood, and fear. "I think," she whispered, her voice barely more than breath, "I think I knew your father." He froze. The guitar strap slipped from his shoulder and hit the floor with a soft thud. His lips parted, but no sound came. Only his eyes moved, wide, uncertain, searching her face for something true. Elena's heart pounded louder now, each beat like a drum against her ribs. She could taste iron at the back of her mouth, the edge of panic and memory colliding. He took a step forward, then stopped, as if afraid of the truth he was walking toward. "My father," he repeated slowly. Who was he? The question hung between them, suspended in the stillness of the room. Outside, the sunlight broke through the clouds again, warm, golden, relentless. It fell across her face, tracing the lines that time had carved there. And in that merciless light, every secret she had buried began to stir. Her eyes filled with tears. Her voice trembled as she finally whispered. He was not supposed to have a child. Leo stared at her. The air between them thickened, heavy with something neither of them yet understood. The city continued to move beyond the window. Unaware, indifferent. As inside, two lives hovered on the edge of a truth that could shatter everything. Elena stood still, her fingers trembling as sunlight painted her face in streaks of gold and shadow. The city outside roared faintly. Car horns, laughter, fragments of life continuing as hers slowly unraveled. Leo said nothing for a long while. His mouth opened, then closed again. The guitar at his feet seemed like a forgotten object from another lifetime. Elena's throat felt dry. Her heart was racing so wildly it hurt to breathe. She looked at him, at his wide, uncertain eyes, and in them she saw the faint outline of a boy who never should have existed. The sunlight grew stronger, flooding the room as if the sky wanted to expose everything. Each golden ray cut through her carefully built years of silence. Her secrets had lived too long in the dark. He finally spoke. His voice was small. "What do you mean, he was not supposed to have a child?" Elena closed her eyes. She could still hear his father's voice in memory. Deep, charming, cruel when he wanted to be. The man who had destroyed so much and yet left a piece of himself walking freely in front of her now. "I knew him," she whispered. Her tone shook. "He worked in the same company years ago. Before you were born." Leo stepped closer, confusion etched on his face. "You mean you were friends?" The word friends struck her like glass. Her lips pressed tightly together before she could answer. She turned toward the window instead, staring out at the skyline shimmering under the sun. "I was his mistake," she said quietly. "And so was what came after." Leo blinked, unsure. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing slightly. "You are saying you knew my father, before my mother met him?" Elena's breath hitched. A flash of memory. A hotel room that smelled of perfume and fear. A man whispering promises he never meant. Her younger self crying into a pillow after he left. She felt sick remembering it. Her voice cracked. "I did not know he had another woman. I did not know she was pregnant. I never saw him again until the day Amara showed up at my door." Leo froze mid-step. His brows furrowed. "My mother came to you?" "Yes." Elena's voice was barely a whisper now. "She came begging for help. She was scared, said someone was after her. Took her in. She stayed here for 3 weeks. Then one night she was gone." He stared at her. Every breath he took sounded heavier. "Gone? I thought she had gone back to him," Elena said. Her hands shook as she spoke. "She never told me who he was. I only realized later, when I saw the photo. That was the night she vanished." Leo's gaze shifted to the small photograph on the floor. The edges curled with age, the woman in it smiling faintly, a baby in her arms. The sunlight made the image look almost alive. He bent to pick it up again, studying it closely. "She said the woman in this picture saved her life," he murmured. "She said you gave her food, shelter, kindness." Elena's throat tightened. Kindness, the word tasted bitter now. Because what she had given had not been kindness. It had been guilt disguised as care. Leo looked up at her again, his face torn between gratitude and disbelief. "If you helped her, why are you so afraid?" Elena could not answer. Her eyes filled with tears that refused to fall. Because she remembered something he did not. The last night Amara stayed. The sound of footsteps in the hall. The door that creaked open in the dark. And the man's voice. Familiar, low, furious. Elena had hidden in her room, paralyzed, listening as Amara begged him to leave her alone. She had heard the slap. The silence after. Then the door slam. By the time she dared to go out, Amara was gone. Now, decades later, her son stood before her, carrying the same voice, the same eyes, the same way of looking at her that his father once did. She whispered, "Leo, do you look like your father?" He frowned at the strange question. "I think so. Everyone says I have his eyes." Elena turned away sharply. Her breath came uneven. The memory of those eyes in the dark pressed against her chest like cold metal. "Please," he said, stepping closer, his tone rising with fear. "You are making me think something terrible." Elena finally looked at him. Her tears had dried, but her voice was trembling. "Some things are terrible, Leo. Even when they are true." He stared at her, and for a second she saw a flicker of the child he must have been. Lost, lonely, searching for answers that could ruin him. Then he said softly, "Tell me who he was." Elena hesitated. The sunlight had begun to move across the floor, creeping toward her feet. She felt trapped in it, like a photograph developing too slowly. "I cannot," she whispered. Her voice cracked again. "If I tell you, you will hate me." Leo shook his head quickly. "I will not." "You will," she said firmly. "Because what I am about to say will change what you think of your mother, and me, and yourself." He swallowed, his jaw tight. "Then let it change. I deserve the truth." The sound of those words tore through her. For decades she had lived alone, content to let the past dissolve into dust. But now, standing before the son of the woman she had once failed to protect, there was no hiding. Her voice came out low, unsteady. "Your father was my lover." The words hung in the bright air, heavy as thunder. Leo blinked as if he had misheard. The sunlight caught the edge of a tear forming in his eye. "You," he began but could not finish. Elena nodded slowly. "I was young, foolish. I did not know what he truly was. When he met your mother I was already gone. I thought I had escaped him. But he found her, Leo. He found her because of me." The room went silent except for the faint hum of the city below. Leo's chest rose and fell rapidly. He looked down at the photo again, his knuckles white. "He hurt her," he said quietly. It was not a question. Elena's eyes glistened. "Yes." A small, strangled sound escaped him. Part laugh, part cry. He ran both hands over his face, the sunlight turning his tears into silver streaks. Then his gaze hardened. "Why did you never tell anyone?" "I was afraid," she said. "I thought it would bring more harm than good. I thought the truth was a wound better left closed." He stepped back, shaking his head. "That was not your choice." The sharpness in his tone startled her. She saw anger blooming beneath his grief, anger that looked too familiar. Her heart raced again. He looked at her then, eyes burning, voice breaking. "You let him hurt her. You let her disappear." The words cut deep. Elena felt her knees weaken. "I tried," she whispered. "I tried to stop him. But you did not." He turned away, pacing toward the window, his silhouette framed by the relentless sunlight. From this angle, he looked almost like his father. The posture, the tension in his shoulders, the fury trembling through him. Elena took a step forward, her voice pleading. Leo, please. I did not know she was pregnant. I did not know there was you. He turned sharply. His face was wet, his expression unreadable. Maybe you did not want to know. The accusation pierced her. It was the one she had feared her whole life. Maybe she had not wanted to know. The silence that followed was unbearable. Even the city seemed to quiet, as if listening. Leo finally spoke again, softer now. My mother died still afraid. I used to wonder what she was running from. Now I see it was not only him. It was everything around her, the people who watched and said nothing. Elena's tears finally came. She reached for him, but he stepped back again. The sunlight hit his face directly now, making his expression unreadable, almost divine and tragic all at once. Then his voice lowered. Do you know what happened to him? Elena blinked through her tears. No. He died, Leo said. His tone was flat. I found his grave last year. No one ever visited it. A strange stillness filled the room. Elena's heartbeat slowed, heavy with sorrow. For a moment she felt the city fade away, leaving only the two of them, one carrying guilt, the other carrying bloodlines that never asked to be born. Leo walked toward her again. His eyes were softer now, but still searching. What am I supposed to do with this? She could not answer, 'cause she did not know. He looked down at the photograph in his hand once more. Then he placed it gently on her table, beside the cup of tea she had not touched since morning. His voice broke as he whispered. She said sunlight reminded her of hope. But right now I do not feel any. Elena stepped closer, her hand trembling as she tried to reach him again. But before she could, he turned toward the door. The golden light followed him, stretching his shadow across the floor. Leo, she called, her voice shaking. Please do not leave like this. He paused at the doorway. The sunlight caught his profile, young, beautiful, and burdened. He did not look back. Some truths, he said softly, should have stayed in the dark. Then the door closed behind him. Elena stood alone, her reflection trembling in the window glass. The sunlight was still bright, but it felt colder now, sharp and merciless. She looked at the photograph lying in the beam of light, and whispered into the empty air. I only wanted to save her. Outside the city kept shining. But inside Elena's world dimmed, swallowed not by darkness, but by the blinding, unrelenting brightness of the truth. The apartment was silent now. Only the hum of the city seeped through the walls, faint, distant, alive. Elena stood in that golden quiet, her shadow stretching long across the sunlit floor. The photograph still lay there, edges curled, its image soft beneath the light. She bent slowly, picked it up, and for a moment the faces on it blurred with her tears. Her fingers traced the woman's smile, Amara's smile, the one she had once promised to protect. And the child in her arms. The child who had just walked out of her life, carrying both her sin and her salvation. She placed the photograph on the windowsill where the sunlight fell the strongest. It glowed faintly, almost alive again. Outside people moved. Strangers with small destinies, unaware of the stories quietly collapsing above them. Elena walked to the window. The glass was warm beneath her palms. Down below, the park shimmered in afternoon gold. Children ran through sprinklers. A young couple shared laughter on the same bench where everything had begun. The sight made her chest ache and ease all at once. Time, it seemed, had no mercy but also no memory. She turned away from the glass, her gaze falling on the old guitar leaning against the wall. He had forgotten it. Or perhaps he had left it behind on purpose. She walked toward it, lifted it carefully, and sat where he had played the first song. Her hands shook as she strummed a single string. The sound was thin, fragile, like a voice trying to return from another time. The melody he used to play still lingered in her memory. She tried to follow it, fumbling, missing notes, but the tune found her anyway. And as it echoed through the quiet room, sunlight touched her hair like forgiveness. The air smelled faintly of rain and tea. Outside, The day was beginning to fade into evening. But inside she felt something soften, a grief untangling, a heart learning to let go. She whispered to the light. Perhaps that is what sunlight is for. To show what the dark could not hide. Her voice broke on the last word. Yet the silence that followed did not hurt this time. Felt complete. She placed the guitar beside the photograph, both now glowing in the fading light. And as the first evening breeze swept through the window, Elena closed her eyes. For the first time in years, she did not feel old. She did not feel alone. She simply felt the warmth on her skin, the weight of truth finally lifted. Below in the park, the young man's shadow appeared briefly among the trees. He paused, looking up toward the balcony where she stood. The distance between them shimmered with the soft gold of sunset. Neither spoke. Neither needed to. He smiled once, small, uncertain but real. Then turned and walked on as the city lights began to bloom. Elena watched until he disappeared into the brightness. Then she whispered one last time, to the empty room and to herself. 60 and sunlight. That is enough. And when night finally came, the golden glow on the window did not fade. It lingered like memory refusing to die. Like love that had found its peace in the open light of day.